True Crime Stories for Sleep. Episode 4, The Mysterious Death of Kendrick Johnson. Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Epic. This is a place where we explore real stories from the darker side of life, calmly, respectfully, and without sensationalism. Many of you listen while resting, relaxing, or drifting towards sleep. So before we begin, I'd like to gently remind you that the stories shared here involve real people and real tragedies. They are told not for shock or entertainment, but for remembrance, awareness, and understanding. For the best experience tonight, lower your volume slightly, get comfortable, and allow the story to quietly unfold in the background. If you're listening from somewhere in the world right now, feel free to leave a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. And if this channel brings you comfort, consider liking the video and subscribing. It truly helps Mr. Epic grow. All right, dim the lights, slow your breathing, and let's begin. On the morning of January 10th, 2013, Kendrick Johnson left his home in Valdosta, Georgia, and headed to school just like he had on hundreds of other mornings before. Kendrick was 17 years old. He was athletic, well-liked, and known for his big smile and warm personality. He played football and basketball, and his family described him as respectful, hard-working, and deeply loyal to the people he loved. That morning, Kendrick arrived at Lowndes High School, carrying his books and moving through the familiar hallways of a building he knew well. By the end of the day, Kendrick would be dead. What happened to him inside that school gymnasium would become one of the most debated and unsettling cases in modern American true crime. Kendrick attended class that morning, laughing with friends and following his usual routine. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. No arguments, no visible distress, no indication that anything was wrong. At some point before his gym class, Kendrick realized he had forgotten his athletic shoes. This was not unusual. Students at Lowndes High often stored extra shoes inside large rolled-up gym mats that were kept standing upright along one wall of the gymnasium. The mats were heavy, tall, and hollow in the center, positioned vertically like enormous cylinders. Students would sometimes drop shoes into the opening at the top and retrieve them later by reaching inside. Kendrick walked into the gym alone. It was the last time he was seen alive. When Kendrick failed to come home that afternoon, his parents grew worried. He was responsible, reliable, not the kind of teenager who disappeared without explanation. Later that evening, after hours of searching, school officials began checking the gym. What they discovered the next day was horrifying. Inside one of the vertical wrestling mats, Kendrick Johnson's body was found, upside down, head first, wedged deep inside the mat. His arms were pinned, his feet pointed upward, his face pressed against the mat's interior. He was already deceased. From the moment Kendrick's body was discovered, questions flooded in. How had he ended up inside the mat? Why was he alone? Why had no one heard him calling for help? And most disturbingly, how had he died? Authorities initially ruled the death an accidental positional asphyxia, suggesting that Kendrick had reached inside the mat to retrieve his shoes, slipped, and became trapped upside down, unable to breathe. But for Kendrick's family, this explanation raised more questions than answers. During the autopsy, injuries were noted on Kendrick's body, including blunt force trauma to the head and face. Officials claimed these injuries were consistent with decomposition. The Johnson family strongly disagreed. They sought a second autopsy from an independent forensic pathologist. This autopsy suggested possible blunt force trauma before death, contradicting the initial ruling. The case took a darker turn. As news of Kendrick's death spread, public opinion became sharply divided. One side believed the official explanation, a tragic accident. The other believed Kendrick had been attacked and that his death was being covered up. Rumors swirled. Speculation involved classmates, parents with law enforcement ties, claims of racial bias and institutional protection. No definitive evidence was ever produced to confirm foul play, but the unanswered questions refused to fade. One detail continued to haunt the case. Kendrick's gym shoes, the reason he allegedly entered the mat, were found underneath him, not near the opening at the top. How had they ended up there? Supporters of the accident theory said gravity explained it. The family remained unconvinced. Security cameras inside the school were reviewed. Large gaps appeared in the footage. Officials explained this as a technical malfunction. To Kendrick's family, it felt like something was missing, not just footage, but truth. Over the years, Kendrick's parents fought tirelessly for answers. They filed lawsuits, requested federal investigations, organized protests, spoke publicly despite harassment and exhaustion. Each legal avenue ultimately ended without criminal charges, but closure never came. For Kendrick's parents, the pain never softened. They were left with a single haunting image, their son alone inside a gym mat, in a place meant for safety and learning. Whether accident or something darker, Kendrick Johnson was gone, and the truth, whatever it is, remains buried. This case forces us to sit with uncertainty, with discomfort, with the reality that sometimes answers never arrive. It reminds us how fragile trust can be, and how silence can echo louder than conclusions. As this story comes to a close, allow your thoughts to slow. Let the rain in the background soften the unanswered questions, not to dismiss them, but to ease their weight. Thank you for listening to Mr. Epic. If you're still awake, leave a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. And when you're ready, allow yourself to rest. Good night.